feel a sense of fear. If you're not, let me give you your homework assignment. Share your story with somebody tonight. Okay? Hopefully, if you don't know Japanese, get somebody who knows Japanese to ride in the cab. That's how we've been doing it. Like, Rebecca, share my story for me. She translated for me. And it may not go perfect. That's okay. God's got this thing. What other big takeaways from today?
You have to be intentional. It's not just going to happen.
Okay. You know what? That's what all this training is about. Be intentional. Was Jesus intentional? Wow. When you went through that study, didn't it just jump out at you? Man, the master was on the move, sharing the gospel of the kingdom. And so that intentionality, knowing what to do, when to do it, and who to do it with, right? If you practice this, you're going to gain competence. And competence leads to what?
Confidence.
Confidence. And confidence leads to commitment. One of the reasons why people don't share their stories because they're not competent. And they're not confident. And so they're not committed. And so that's what this whole process helps people to do. Become confident, competent, and committed. Good. Very intentional. Are we used to being this intentional? Is our Christian culture this intentional? Feels a little uncomfortable, doesn't it? Okay? One thing about a good disciple maker, Howard Hendricks said this. He always has a liberal amount of itching powder to throw on the disciple. So, they're a little bit itchy while you're making disciples. So maybe we did that today. Okay? What else? What was a big takeaway from the day? Yes, Arthur.
If I don't do things that facilitate multiplication, I won't facilitate multiplication.
That's good.
Well said.
Yeah. What if you go after addition versus multiplication? What does that say about us? If we say, I'll just go after addition. What does that say about us?
For me personally, I don't think my actions would align with my understanding of God's heart for the lost.
Would you say that again?
Yeah, if I didn't pursue multiplication, I wouldn't be living in line with my understanding of God's heart for the lost.
Yes, that's worth writing down. I would say it this way, not that I'm saying it better, that was pretty good. I would say anything less than multiplication would be being a poor steward of the gospel. Now, fasten your seatbelt on that one. But, God's given us this precious gift that we've received and will benefit from for all eternity. Wouldn't it stand to reason that I would get that message out to as many people as I could? Because, quite frankly, the world is going to hell by the stadium full every day, and it's happening in this country. That is a reality. do we love people enough to change our strategies and tactics so that they multiply? I think we should, and that's why you're here. Okay. That's good, Arthur. Thank you.
I think it's too. I love seeing people light up when they start sharing the gospel. I'm like a Christian that's not even like, I have a friend in Osaka. He started training any believer, period, and they had this one woman that hadn't been to church in like 6 months and was real skittish and about even being around Christians, and he trained her. And she started lighting up, coming around, like, I mean, plugging into all her activities, and her whole, and starting to reach out, started groups, but it's like setting any believer on fire to give them, to just give them what they've already been given and teach them and point them in that direction. But a believer sharing the gospel is a happy believer. And Jesus' heart, you can see it in John 15 and actually the whole upper room, but he said his 17 is he wants us to experience the joy that he had, his joy to the fullest, and that's why he wants us to be a part of bearing fruit. And it's an easy way to give joy to someone to push them out in the harvest.
Well, and to illustrate that, while we've been here at this training, I got a text, just like an hour ago, from Heidi. I'm super excited. I just trained my dad in the 411, and now he wants to go through the commands.
Yeah,
so this is real stuff. I mean, this is a daughter shared with her dad.
Yeah. And now at the 4-in-1, you get the ability for someone to light up other Christians really easily.
And that brings up, I love doing this, so forgive me. Can this do anything for a non-Christian to share the gospel? Have you ever heard of such a thing, a non-Christian, training a non-Christian to share the gospel? Ever hear of such craziness? We heard a story, Deb and I, this aunt was sharing the gospel with her nephew, a sergeant in the Army. And he was listening to her, and he said, "This is hooey. I don't believe a word of this." So he went to work, and that day his assignment was to guard a young soldier who wanted to commit suicide. So as he's going into the night with this guy, he says, "Well, maybe it'll help him. I don't believe it." But he shares the gospel with his kid, and his life radically transformed before this sergeant's eyes. He is full of joy, and he's crying and weeping and saying, "You saved my life. This is what I've been looking for." And the sergeant, he says, "This did this for this guy. He can do this for me." So he received Christ, and they're both embracing, crying, And so the gospel is powerful no matter whose mouth it comes from.
Amen.
And it brings great joy when we share it and when we receive it. So that's a great point. Yeah. Other takeaways from today?
I can keep talking. I just remember one word. I don't know why, it just impressed me when Taishido was giving his summary, just one sentence, that it was difficult to define gatherings. That just stood out to me. I'm not gonna, but I just thought that was the way that he worded it kind of struck me. It's like that he saw that in the scripture and articulated that back was just kind of, as far as we're defining church and what does it look like. And it really is a little bit hard to nail down in the Bible. Like some team of mine have been studying through Acts, and when did it become church? What does it look like? What exactly? And it's difficult to nail down. I was just touched that he saw that in the Gospels and articulated that.
Yeah, I was touched that Taishido was up here.
Yeah.
It happened in Nagio, Nagio.
Nagoya.
Nagio. What did he say? Yeah, it happened there. I almost lost it when our Japanese sister was explaining. I was fixing the ball, you know. So it's so good to see people get this, you know, and they are the hope for Japan. So good. Maybe there's some questions, burning questions, and then I'll just say, I don't know. We only have 8 minutes left.
Actually, we're going to 5:30.
Oh, 5:30. Well, we won't
Watch out for
belabor
it.
you. Some people have jet lag.
Okay, all right.
So we'll go to at least 5. Any questions?
Well, one of the things, when we were doing the 411, that we were talking about, when we go through Matthew 28, when you ask the person, you know, are you willing to be baptized? And then you try and set that up right then and there, you know, where can we go, when can we do? And then the same thing when you say the teaching to obey, would you be willing to learn Jesus' commands and obey them? When can we do that, and who can you invite to that? So that, you know, now you've set up baptism, you set up them doing short-term discipleship, basically.
Other questions? Yes, but
It's not a question, but you made the statement that people are going to hell by the stadium fulls every day. So I was Googling some numbers, just to put numbers on that. According to Google, 151,600 people die every day on the average. That's total. Best I could find for evangelical Christians, I was struggling finding good numbers, but about 14% of the world are evangelicals. I don't know. I couldn't find good solid numbers, but so that means about over 120,000 people die every day going to hell.
now Bud and I are laying this on you. Is this to make you feel guilty? That is not the purpose. If you're feeling guilty, it's probably working against us. What we want to do is we want you to align your heart with the Father's heart. And instead of guilt, bring sorrow. Bring that kind of sorrow that motivates us to love people. That we love them so much, we'll get past our fear, get past the awkwardness. I've gotten to the point where I see people with their earbuds in. What does that mean to you? Don't bother me. I still approach those people. I go like this. You know what? Most people do it and they go, yeah. They're not ticked off. I haven't been punched in the face yet. You know, one of the things as we're training you, now be careful with this, because you might, if you take cruise control and power windows out of your car, is that a big deal? No, the car will still do what it needs to do. Now, you may be uncomfortable, but that's okay. Right? If you take the pistons out of the engine, what now? That's a no-go. You don't do that, right? So be careful. You don't ever want to take the principles out of the process. You got to have a process. There is no principle that is practiced without process, okay? So if you're not a methods person, you're actually a methods person. Your method is no method. Does that make sense? Okay? So every principle has to have, in order to be practiced, has to have a process. You can ruminate on that. But here's the deal. If one of our tools doesn't fit you, and probably this is the most important, If it doesn't fit your context, find a tool that does. Because you gotta be simple, biblical, and reproducing if we're gonna get to movement, if we're gonna get to multiplication. So what we train, I say eat the melon, spit out the seeds, okay? But what you should be thinking right now is, okay, how do I train somebody on what I've been trained today? And I'm not talking about 411. I'm talking about all of it. Now, it may take you some months to get to the point where you can train this, but that's the way you're thinking. Okay, Caleb, how many times have you seen this training?
Once before this.
And what did we do to you?
You put me up here and had me train it today.
We sundelled you, okay? Or chucked you. We gave you more than 24 hours, okay? And how did Caleb do?
Good. Yeah.
Awesome, right? Okay. Rebecca, how many times have you seen the train?
One.
And what did we do to you?
Chucked me.
Chucked you right in there, okay? And she did a fantastic job
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
Now David's a veteran. He's done it maybe 3 times. Okay. But this is the way that you train folks. You get in there. When you got stuck, Caleb, what did we do?
You helped me out.
Yeah, we're assisting. Okay. What we did with Rebecca and Caleb is we mauled them. We mauled them. We modeled. Then we assisted today. And then we'll watch. And then we're going to launch. Model, assist, watch, and launch. And the faster you do that, what's responsibility? Fertilizer, not manure. Fertilizer, okay? Responsibility is fertilizer. So they saw it. Notice we didn't give them, well, we did, David gave them the glory of God thing. Well, that's a little bit more complicated, but we were here to assist. Tomorrow, Caleb has the baptism piece. All he's going to do is he's seen the format of adult learning. He's seen that several times. He's just going to take the Bible study. Have you ever been through the baptism hammer before?
Nope.
All he's going to do is take the Bible study and use the same adult learning format, and he'll be learning at the exact same time you are. But do you know what that does for Caleb? That's fertilizer. And guess what? In 6 days, Team San Antonio leaves Japan. And shame on us if we don't adequately train the trainers. It's 5 o'clock. All right, let's see here. Kevin, you got?
Can I say something?
Yeah, and then Kevin, when we're done, you pray for us, okay?
Okay, one thing I just want to insert into something you said is that when I got trained in this on my way to the field in Japan, and I think I was, in the initial training, it wasn't emphasized, it was maybe overemphasized that I could choose whatever I wanted to use, and I probably wasted months trying to figure out what I was going to use, and I still didn't end up using something that was multipliable. So I would just add to that. Feel free to plug and play, but minor tweaks are better than major tweaks. And while you're waiting to adapt it, use what we show you in terms of just, like, I was really skeptical about this gospel presentation 4 days ago because I thought it's not enough, right? Well, you know what? I only have a minute with people most of the time anyway, and so I just started using it, and wow, my eyes were just, it's like, goodness, we have 3 contacts, just from this simple, throwing it out there on the train, and we're hooking people, you know, no one's received Christ yet, but just I would say use as is, make minor tweaks, and feel free to tweak all of it at some point, but I would say use it before don't wait to use it until you have what's contextual, because the gospel, I've seen people get saved through terrible gospel presentations and really get saved. And so, like, don't wait to start sharing the gospel. Use this immediately. I would recommend to not. I mean, on the way to the station, get the first one out there, because like now I'm finally sharing daily since I've learned this gospel presentation, because I don't have to pull out a pen and paper, and it just things slow me. So I just want to throw that out there. Is
Good.
use it as is while you're adapting. Don't wait till you adapt it, because it takes people a long time to adapt things. And
What's the definition of best practice?
You'll actually use it?
Okay, you'll use it. Good. It's simple. It's
Biblical.
biblical. It's
Reproducible.
to the fourth generation. Okay? What we have shown you has gone way, way beyond the fourth generation. So it's simple, it's biblical, and it's reproducing past the fourth generation. So that's the definition of the best practice. All right, Kevin, pray for it.